All right, and welcome back. You're climbing that mountain to learn the ins and outs of OverPower, and you're getting through the OverPower basics and remembering how this game works. And here you come along to probably one of the bigger topics, especially for older players coming back who may not have played a lot near the end of the game, where battle sites were a big thing. As you know, Devour of World was a big card. And, when I say the name of that card, people shiver a bit. A lot of people, that was a moment of, of no return for OverPower there. When that card was designed, and I referenced Devour of Worlds as an any character card that said, put in play, and opponent may not play activator cards until 4 activator cards have been played against Devourer of Worlds. Well, wow, you would say that's not that big of a deal, but when you realize that I get to put that card in play, they only get to play 1 activator at a time on it. It really burns a lot of time and turns and resources on their side for a battle site deck. So you could see how, you pair something like that with, the event set Shattered Image, and where it says you can't play activators at all and you have to discard them. How instantaneous. And, probably a big reason for the downfall of the game of OverPower. I would say it soured a lot of people at that particular time, because that particular combo kind of came out and took over the game of OverPower for probably till the end of its days. So we won't get into that just yet. We'll talk about Devour of Worlds near the end. But, it really stagnated the whole idea of battle sites, and the whole idea of creativity in decks. The strategy, revolved around playing any heroes yourself, and then, that then in itself turned its own strategy into team defense and, big one-per decks. So battle sites and combos and, the more creative side of OverPower started to get really stunted at that particular time. So to sort of recap where this podcast is going, though, you really have to, when you're first choosing a deck, decide whether you're going to go with this any character strategy or the battle site strategy. So we're going to discuss any characters first, as we've sort of already divulged into it, and they were around first before battle sites. So you got to kind of choose your A or your B deck, your any heroes or your battle site. So we're going to discuss A right away to start. So any heroes were around pretty much near the beginning. They started off a lot of as promos in comic books, and then were printed in later sets, as it wasn't fair that certain people had them and other people didn't if you didn't hunt them down. I remember one of the chases being Hillshire Farms cards that you had to go get. It was an unbelievable hunt down to get an any hero from an Hillshire's Farm card, especially in Canada where Hillshire's Farm wasn't a thing. So the trade scene back then was just horrendous, and usually only at events could you get these types of things, especially US exclusives. So, and of course the Hillshire's Farm any hero I'm referencing is the alien symbiote. Beautiful, I believe it's She-Venom on there. So any heroes started coming out, and like I said, as promotionals. And any heroes, again, are the cards that any hero can use. So it's a special card. They can't be placed particularly on a hero, unless, of course, the any hero says it can be placed on a hero. But it can be used by any hero. So any of your 3 frontline heroes can use these special cards, and they're usually very powerful. And I will say, I believe all of them are 1 per deck, except that beautiful She-Venom that I mentioned, and was later reprinted in IQ as well. She-Venom, of course, remove 1 hit from permanent record. It being the the only non-one per deck out of all the AnyHeroes. So when you do play AnyHeroes, you have to realize that all the AnyHeroes are one per deck. So you actually can only have one copy of any AnyHero in your deck at any time. Now, of course, not having the ability to place them is very tough. Now, there is a home base out there called Team OP. Again, a promo home base, so harder of the cards to get, but quite a few copies out there to receive. I believe it did come out in the Mega Powers promo set, if you are looking for that online. So this one was called Team OP, and what that allows you is it allows you to actually place any character or any hero card on the home base. So you can place your Avoid, your Guardian Angel, any character on the home base, and then of course still it can be used for any of your 3 frontline characters. It just gets to be placed there and go from battle to battle in that respect for card advantage purposes. So really unique there in terms of both the Battlesite and any characters because, again, they're one per deck. You only have one sort of specific. Now, a couple of them obviously, stronger than others. Some of them range from just a 4 attack. Originally, it was 4 fighting attack. May make 1 additional attack, so a classic AA special as it would be coded in OverPower, but of course any character can do it and make an additional attack, so quite powerful. They did do an AR special, which was a 7 strength attack as well. They did of course the one that I just mentioned, Guardian Angel, which was an avoid an attack. Another promo one that they did was Confusion, which allows the character or one of their teammates to avoid teamwork attack. So now that nullifies, of course, the initial teamwork and does not allow them to throw any additional attacks from the teamwork as well. I believe the code on that is DB. So as you can see, really powerful effects in terms of these any character cards. Now, some again, like I said, more powerful than others. The first, I think, truly super powerful AnyHero that came out was Fortress of Solitude. Again, a promotional card. So these cards, collectability wise, were tough to get and, were quite sought after in the aftermarket, even to this day are still at this point. So the Fortress of Solitude, was, one of those cards that people hated to see because what it was it allowed you to play it to concede the battle, and you returned all of your ventured missions to the piles that you ventured them from. So in essence, sort of just like saying, well, this battle didn't happen other than what we placed and any actions that we took to this moment. But at this point, we've kind of just reset and act like nothing happened, but you're first. Go ahead now. So at this point, what was really unique about this card is not only was that truly such a powerful effect, but it's the first any character that allowed you to place it. So this card now you could actually place to one of your characters in the special card placing slot. With such a powerful effect and the ability that it could just sit there from battle to battle until the round that you wanted it for. And this of course was before the home base of Team OverPower, was just truly a powerful effect to that card. Already a powerful card in itself. It just added a extra layer and dynamics to that card in general. To the point where it actually did get an errata to it as well, just so that everybody out there who does play AnyHeroes and does play Fortress of Solitude, or as I believe the new reprint of it is called Hades, Lord of the Underworld. The stigma to it is that if you've ventured more than 2 mission cards, you actually cannot play that card to concede the battle. This was actually put in play because originally what was happening is people were just venturing large amounts, letting the other person draw the cards, thus, putting them in their hands, and then just using that card to concede the battle. Now, of course, they could have negated it, but if they didn't have a negate, they were essentially just wasting, 3 to 4 to 5 cards, depending on the wager or the venture that the opponent had. So they did errata that so that it was if you ventured more than 2 mission cards, you could no longer play Fortress of Solitude. Now that is on the reprint of the Hades Lord of the Underworld. That is actually written on there. So as you can see, a couple of these are starting to get erratas early on because of just the powerfulness of the cards. The next one that sort of revolutionized the Any Character game came out in IQ, and this one was unique because it was a surprise. I don't think it was leaked out, and people who were just opening IQ were fans of original OverPower, not really understanding that this was just a complete rebrand and reboot. We had all seen the IQ stat on the DC set, and we were all just like, what is this, and then we didn't really grasp what it was, and then all of a sudden when IQ came out, we were just like, oh wow, this game has just elevated. And in the IQ set, just sort of like hidden in there, that is of course where the reprint of the Hillshire Farms Alien Symbiote She-Venom remove one hit from the permanent record. AnyHero also came out in the IQ, of course being just a mere afterthought to the mere amazingness of that set. But hidden in the set and incredibly hard to get, even to this day, I think it was maybe 1 per 2 boxes, it could have even been more drastic than that, was an AnyHero called Power Leech. Now this little guy, not only is it visually one of the coolest looking cards in the game of OverPower, and came out in just one of probably the most iconic, revolutionary set the game has ever seen. This little guy just changed the game. When he came out, and I believe Power Leech is a male, but of course, don't get me wrong if it is a female. So when Power Leech came out, it just devastated, because not only were people just excited to play, so you just got all your IQ cards and you go to your local store and you didn't get a Power Leech, so you don't even know about it, so you just build your team and you go there and you're like, oh, I'm gonna wreck somebody with the new Mr. Fantastic, that sort of scenario. And then all of a sudden you're like in battle number 3 and the guy just looks at you and he goes, Power Leech, and you go, what is that? And then he goes, oh, it says, opponent must discard 4 cards with an icon of my choice. And you just go, what does that say? And you go, opponent must discard 4 cards of an icon of my choice. And you just go, well, I don't have a negate, so I have to stop that because it says opponent. So it's not even targeting a character, it's targeting you as an opponent. It was devastating. People were playing this. Other people didn't even know that it existed, and they were playing it in games, let alone in like the first tournament after IQ. Like, certain people had it, certain people didn't have it, because it was a very rare card to get, and people were starting to hoard them in that respect as well, not only from the collector side but from the tournament side. So really unique card to come out, Power Leech. So with its power, they decided to make a quick errata to it as well. Obviously, as all the super powerful cards sometimes get in the game of OverPower. So the errata, what they did is, instead of making it an opponent being that I have to deal with it, as they're literally attacking me as a person and my opponent. So the only way to sort of deal with that is a negate. Which is, few and far between in a lot of decks this day and age. So they changed it to where it was target character. So it actually had to be played against an actual character itself. Now, this didn't change much. It was still incredibly powerful, and just when it hits, it hits. It changes a game because it takes away cards that are not only in your hand but possibly placed. And as all my OP friends know, card advantage is, the way to win overpower games. So you can imagine that just power leech hitting is it just changes the game. Still to this day, you have to kind of put it in the back of your mind as how am I going to block a power leech if it does come my way. So they did make it where it has to actually target a character. So it can actually be avoided now, not just blocked in terms of, only a negate. Now, personal negates for a character can block it. Personal avoids can block it. No special cards. This is a plethora of different ways that it can potentially be blocked now. Even only universe, CDs, acrobatics, these sort of things. So it did downplay the card a little bit, especially with the ability for potential of characters to actually be able to stop this individually. So at that point, Leech was sort of downplayed a little bit. Fortress of Solitude downplayed a little bit. And then they start to introduce battle sites. So battle sites start to become a thing. Home bases start to become a thing. There's a few of those floating around, and the game's starting to change in that respect. So I guess they did not like battle sites. Again, we're going to get to battle sites in a second. But I guess they weren't too keen on the idea of their own way of retroactively revamping a whole, dare I say, dead part of their card collection. They created an AnyHero called Devourer of Worlds. Now, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this card, but as mentioned earlier, it just devastated the landscape. It truly created a scenario where the game just became stunted, unfun. A lot of people left at this point in time. This came out in X-Men, probably is the rarest card in X-Men, on top of the fact it was Power Leech, 2.0, but on steroids. And plus the ability, the fact that you could also have Power Leech in your deck with any character of Devourer of Worlds was even more surreal. So to kind of talk about quickly about this and how, in the Overpower Renaissance era, it went through its different stages. I'm not going to go through everything, but, they tried a ton of different erratas of allowing you to throw all the activators at once, allowing you to defensively throw the activators, not allowing you to place it to team Overpower, Devour of Worlds, as I reference. And so, all of that was attempted, and then all of a sudden they were just like, well, it's still just stunting it. It's still, all AnyHeroes with particular deck style. So in the competitive scene, they just made a collective decision of all the competitive people that were particularly playing in all of the bigger national style tournaments, and they collectively just decided for Devour of Worlds to be the first card that's banned in tournament play in Overpower at the current moment as I say this podcast. So if you do have that card, great collector card. Obviously, I believe it's gone down quite in value. It used to be, up in the $250, $300 range, and it's probably not too far underneath that now, as inflation and things have gone up. But it really has dropped drastically, as it's not necessary, as a pivotal card in the game anymore. Just really cool, Galactus obviously devouring all the worlds. So what's happened just in the last little bit as well in the Overpower Revival is a couple new AnyHeroes have come out as well. They've created an AnyHero where you can discard 5 cards from the top of your draw pile. Really, really neat. It was a promo as well. Of course, hard to get, but I'm sure there will be a reprint, as the promo was just a foil rendition of it. And usually it gets reprinted in a non-foil, easy to get rendition for you out there, OP friends. The next one that they created as well is look at the top 5 cards of your draw pile. You get to choose one of them. You reveal it to your opponent, but then you get to keep it and you put the other 4 cards back on your pile and reshuffle your draw pile. So it's basically getting to look at the top 5, choose one. Again, you do have to show your opponent, which is probably the downside of it, but getting that in the middle of a round when you just really need to sort of, get a power card or get some defense or look for that negate when you really need it, or, get something to win the venture, it could be a really big, crucial AnyHero. I think they were really trying to sort of buff up the with Devourer of Worlds getting banned, they were trying to sort of buff up the power of AnyHeroes as they continued on in the OverPower game and its current state right now. Now, and I will finalize with that, with AnyHeroes, there was a change after Devourer of Worlds was banned because it was such a powerful card and it did get banned in the scene. The scene wanted to, and the current creators of OverPower at the moment wanted to give something back to AnyHeroes for taking that away. And what they created is they created something called the Cataclysm class of AnyHero. Now what this is in replacement of Devourer of Worlds, you actually get access to this Cataclysm class. And in the Cataclysm class, there are currently, I believe, 5 Cataclysms. So there's a 10 multi-power attack. There is a avoid 1 special card attack, draw 1 card from the top of the draw pile. Then there is also a draw 3 cards from top of draw pile, discard any duplicates. Then there is also a discard 1 special card usable by teammate, draw 4 cards from top of draw pile, reveal to opponent, keep duplicates. Quite powerful in that respect as well. I can't really recall the other ones off the top of my head. I know that I believe there is as well a new one that just came out, which is a -3 to venture. And I believe it is also a reveal. Opponent must reveal hand and play open-handed for remainder of battle. I believe that is one of the new cataclysms as well. So friends, that's sort of the idea between AnyHeroes and the selection. Again, you only get to put one of any particular AnyHero in your deck, of course, unless it is a alien symbiote. Now, you do have to remember of the Cataclysm class, though. You're not allowed to put all of the Cataclysms in there. You are only allowed to put one of the Cataclysms in your deck. Now, the remainder of all the AnyHeroes and any characters that came through all the sets, you can put one of each of those. Of course, with the alien symbiote, you can put as many in as you wish. So now this is going to take us over to deck B, the Battlesite side of things. So Battlesites came out, I'm gonna say, monumental. That was truly a monumental set, as it did have the Starjammers and the Marauders, like just both changed the meta of the game dynamically. I believe it also had the Axe Babies as well. Fantastic set, monumental. One of my true faves. Just truly reminds me of a great time in OverPower, and a great time of just a well-balanced game, great deck building. But they had created something called Battlesites. Now, Battlesites, I think, was a way of OverPower going, well, we don't use a lot of those old 3-stack characters. People have them in their collections. What can we do to sort of use that? And all these characters that just, have medium cards, but aren't just great, frontline, prime time characters. How do we get them in the action? we have these AnyHeroes, which are sort of like cameos for the characters on the AnyHeroes, whether it be Sauron or Wolverine or Power Leech or Superman in Fortress of Solitude. But they said, let's create battle sites. Now, what battle sites do is it gives you access to the characters on the battle site. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean, you're not allowed to play any heroes anymore. So all of those any heroes we just talked about, you can't use a single one of those. They're off limits to you. What you're going to do instead is you're going to use a battle site. And what you're going to do for the battle site is you're going to look at the 6 characters listed on the battle site. So on the front of the battle site card, it'll say, and for example, we'll right now use 4 Freedoms Plaza. So on the battle site itself, you will look at the 6 characters. And of course, 4 Freedoms Plaza, very famously, Mr. Fantastic, Invisible Woman, Human Torch, Thing, and then of course they also have 2 other characters, and in this particular battle site it is Namor and She-Hulk. So great 6 characters, love them all, seen a lot of movies where they're all in them, and of course, Marvel shows. So when you look at this battle site, you say, okay, I get access to all 6 of those characters. Every single one of their specials I potentially have access to at this particular time. Now, there's some rules when you're making battle sites. So a couple of the rules fall in respect like this. You're only allowed to choose out of all those 6 characters, one of their 1 per decks. So they all have, a range of, 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, 1 per dex, depending on the character. And you only get to choose one of those from any one of those characters. And you get to put that in your battle site. Now, once you've chosen which 1 per deck that you want to use in your battle site, you get access to any other special that any of those characters have. Now, the only other restriction you have in this battle site scenario is you cannot duplicate card code on specials in your battle site. So I'm just referencing, you're looking at this battle site and you're like, okay, I want to have this She-Hulk only universe cards may be used to attack for a remainder of battle. Well, that's fantastic. You can absolutely use that She-Hulk card, and then you're going to put 1 She-Hulk activator in your deck to represent that She-Hulk card. But that means now that you can't use the Namor only energy attacks may be used against Namor for a remainder of battle, because they have the same code, CD and CD. So in that particular scenario, you have to choose which one of those you want to play for whatever strategy or scenario that you're using. Or maybe, that character has different specials that you want to use over this one. So it's more, beneficial that you use that character's CD over this character's CD if they're, at the same value of defense. So in that scenario, that's the only restrictions you have to think of towards battle sites. So you have to look in terms of you can only have 1 per deck, and it's the same as in AnyHeroes. You can have only 1 Cataclysm. So it's the same style of restriction. You can have only 1 per deck from your character, and then past that you can only have 1 coded card per battle site. So again, only 1 AO in your battle site. You can't have 2 characters with an AO, which is a negate. Even if 2 of your characters have a negate on your battle site, you can only choose 1 of those characters to represent a negate in your battle site. Now, what I mean by representing, I mean that if you have multiple specials for, again, you have 6 characters listed on a battle site. If you have multiple specials for that character under your battle site, you will have the corresponding number of character cards in your home base. In your deck. So, for instance, if you have 3 Mr. Fantastic cards under your battle site, you will have 3 Mr. Fantastic character cards in your deck. So anytime you draw a Mr. Fantastic card in your hand, again, it falls under the discard and duplicate rule. So always remember that if you draw two Mr. Fantastics, you have to discard one of them in that scenario because it's a duplicate. Now, but what you get access to is when you draw that Mr. Fantastic activator, you now at that particular time get access to any Mr. Fantastic specials under your battle site. So in this particular scenario, Fantastic Four, let's just say, for example, you decide that the Thing Large Attack, the Clobber in Time 10 Strength card, his special is going to be your 1 per deck that you chose under here. Well, when you draw a thing from your deck, a character card, then you get access to that big 10 1 per deck. Or if you've also used particularly his AG, which is coded for the Avoid attack, Avoid 1 attack, you now have access to either an Avoid 1 attack or a 10 strength attack, 1 per deck. Now, of course, you can even add an additional thing card in there as well. So then at that particular time, you add in the thing AA, which I believe is Temper Tantrum. And that means it's a 4 strength attack, may make 1 additional attack. So now at that particular time, I have 3 thing cards under my battle site, and I'm putting 3 character thing cards in my deck. So now anytime I draw a thing card in a battle, I get access to, of course, Temper Tantrum, Clobber in Time, and the Avoid 1 attack, Rock Skin. So in that particular case, you have a really nice selection. So instead of the AnyHero side of things, if you can remember, you have to use the AnyHero most times when you get it, because it's a 1 per deck and it's in your hand, unless you're using Team OP as a place where you could potentially place it, or it's allowed to be placed to one of your characters via, the actual any character says that on the card. In a battle site scenario, you actually get an access to a plethora of a few cards, which just adds such a dynamic, strategic, almost chess-like effect over the checker side of an AnyHero have to play it when you get it sort of side. So the second Devourer of Worlds got banned, this whole idea of battle sites and, using 6 characters and finding unique combinations of specials that complement the strategy of a deck just blossomed into what was an amazing renaissance of OverPower that we're currently in at the moment, pre another relaunch and rebrand. So at this particular time, battle sites are amazing to use. Some of the more popular ones that are out there are Onslaught Citadel, has a lot of, venture manipulation with killing characters and taking away venture and tucking venture in and pulling venture out from your side from the permanent into the current, and things that just, lots of defense in terms of power cards and good range of light attacks. Then you have things like, Wundagore Mountain, which is just, an overall light balanced, very popular battle site that has everything from a negate to Colossus, those huge card advantage cards of like avoid draws. And then of course you have, very defensive style battle sites like the Danger Room that often will use, as we mentioned in our specials episode, those 1 per decks where they can avoid 1 attack and may not be attacked for a remainder of battle. So, battle sites can truly complement a deck. If your deck is all attacks, your battle site can be very defensive for you. And there's a lot of reasonings to go strategically wise with battle sites over AnyHeroes. Especially if you're truly trying to get to a place where you don't want the game to be just who draws their bigger cards. You want to have resources and access to resources to potentially win a higher percentage of your games. I do personally recommend Battlesites over AnyHeroes. I think it is a much more strategic style of game. There is benefits to AnyHeroes and AnyHero style decks, but I think the true greats would prefer Battlesites, as you just have that element of strategy that you can access different resources at different times in a game through Battlesites. The final thing about Battlesites that I'm going to discuss is the man Beyonder himself. I guess he is the cousin of IQ. The IQ set one of the promo cards through something called the Venture, which was sort of the newsletter back in the day in the 90s of OverPower. Anybody who, of course, who signed up to the Venture, you got a Venture card and you got a number and you got this newsletter, which occasionally had promos in it. Well, one day we all got this promo called Beyonder, and a little piece of paper that just told you how Beyonder worked. And first of all, Beyonder in itself was an incredibly cool character. I believe it was drawn by Ron Peraza, who is just a really cool guy and, still active person in the OverPower community today with great stories of old. And he drew this Beyonder character, this cool, puff, collar right up looking guy, and these infinity symbols all the way down, and he can play anybody's special cards. That was his inherent ability. So already a cool character in respect of just the visual, the whole idea of him, and he cost 24 points for a team or so on. But the really cool aspect that they added into Beyonder later on, when Battlesites were put out, was they said that Beyonder himself you can put into your deck as an activator, and he acts as a wild card and can get any card from your battle site in any battle except for your one per deck. So he has access to every single card onto your battle site except for your one per deck. Now, you don't replace an activator with Beyonder. He's in there additionally. So every special that's on there has a character card in your deck, and then you add Beyonder additionally. So there are potential dangers, because you could use your avoid one attack, and then all of a sudden you use the other special with the activator in your hand, and then all of a sudden you draw the second activator and you don't have that avoid one attack anymore because you used it with Beyonder. Well, now you have to discard that activator because you don't have another card under there for it. Random example, but Beyonder, of course, should always go in a deck when you're playing a battle site, because it is just that phenomenal of a card. To have a wild card and the ability to get any defensive or attacking style card or utility card even at any potential time is just too good to pass up in that respect, for sure. So with that being said, I would say, if you're really getting into the uber strategic, more advanced side of OverPower, Battlesites is probably the way you're starting to look. You're starting to look at combinations, things that you can create. It's where the deck creativity truly starts to get unleashed. But of course, for newcomers, AnyHero, and even people still playing today. I played an AnyHero deck just last year in one of the tournaments. So, there's always a reason and a strategy, and sometimes AnyHeroes are just more fun in that respect. And of course, fun is sometimes the name of the game when it comes to OverPower, unless you're trying to be uber competitive and head to the top of the mountain, but sometimes actually both roads can meld together. Well, that is our episode. Thank you again for joining me, the GOAT, the greatest of all time, up here on the OverPower Mountain podcast. Subscribe, like, and of course, write in the comments anything that you want to hear more about, or anything that you possibly want to know in regards to AnyHeroes or Battlesites. Thanks again. And oh, wow, look at that. Just before we end the podcast, something just popped in my mind. I will say we're going to head back just quickly to the AnyHeroes and the cataclysms that I mentioned. As I did mention in there, you do have a choice of one Cataclysm. These were the replacements for the Devourer of Worlds since it got banned from competitive play. Now, of course, the Cataclysms that you do get to choose from, as I pre-mentioned, were the Draw 3, the Draw 4, discarding a special card usable by a frontline character, and then you have to reveal the cards. Then as well, of course, there is the avoid one special card and draw a card from that. I believe I mentioned the new one in regards to as well, which was the -3 to venture total and reveal hand and play open-handed. And then of course the multi-10. Well, it just popped in my head, and I'm glad I didn't end the podcast before it did. There is one more, and it's probably the most played one of all of them in the current meta at the moment. And that, of course, is the avoid one attack, may not be attacked for remainder of battle. So there is one more Cataclysm card out there for you to choose should you decide to go the AnyHero route. Glad I caught that before we ended the podcast. So again, friends, see, I'm always trying to give you the information hot off the press. Thanks again for listening. Again, don't forget to subscribe, like, and write some comments. Thanks.